Hello again to our finals report and highlights from Moscow 2018. I found out who the fourth route setter was. So in total it was Robert Lux, Robert Leisner, Tomasz Olecki and Alexander Romanowski from Poland as well. Our finalists for this weekend in the women's, ladies, girls category were Janja Garnbret, Miho Nonaka, Akiyo Noguchi, world champion Petra Klingler, Fanny Gibert and again Shauna Coxsey. Sandra Lettner didn't take part in Moscow. Petra Klingler made it into her first bouldering World Cup final of the season. And Shauna Coxsey made it again as well, even though she started training way later than all the other girls, apparently, to her interviews and her comments due to an injury. The other four competitors, we have seen them in Meiringen last weekend. Okay, let's jump to boulder number 1, the slab. And it was not a beautiful slab, it was more old school looking. I'd rather say it's a poor looking slab with wide 360 hold snakes. I don't really like them. I think they're just functional, they don't look good. And they created this. They created a rather old school slab, if I try to say which style it is. Slow climbing, uncontrolled, maybe a little bit awkward and desperate. When I say poor looking, it's only because I compared with boulder number 1 of the men's, which had way better holds, way bigger holds. And I guess if the route setters would have had better holds, better volumes or other holds to make it possible to set the same climb, they would have done it. Besides the visual aspect, the boulder is balancy delicate and it needs to be like this, slow and maybe uncomfortable climbing where you need to be in control and confident on these slippery and bad footholds and handholds. And we've seen 3 tops by Petra Klingler, by Miho Nonaka and by Janja Garnbret. And we've seen 2 different ways. Janja Garnbret, on the other hand, she moved up really quick with her left hand, stood with her left foot and prevented the flagging, the tweaking, the turning around of her body with a heel hook of her right foot. Petra Klingler and Miho Nonaka, they stood on a foothold with their right foot and leaned over to the left, and they flagged out with their left foot to keep the body center of the gravity to the left and then be able to match. Really unexpected for me that neither Akiyo nor Fanny Gibert were able to stick the last move, because in my opinion they're really good slab vertical wall climbers. And Shauna Coxsey, she didn't send it as well. I guess it's just the lack of training and the lack of confidence coming back after an injury. She slipped a couple of times. But Akiyo and Fanny, who I consider really good at climbing vertical walls, that was maybe a mental problem afterwards for the comp, because they knew that they had to send, like the boys, all the problems if you want to win. Okay, after boulder number 1, Janja and Miho both needed 3 tries to send the slab. Petra needed 3 tries as well, but 2 tries to get to the zone hold. The other 3 didn't send the boulder at all, but each one got the zone at least. And now we can jump to the jump. Boulder number 2. Instead of old school slow, the route setters changed the speed of the boulder of the competition. And we go into a high complex dyno introduced by a palm move for the start. A high complex 1-2 slide away triple dyno. We started on this Pac-Man half moon red handhold with both feet on the big 360 volcano, and all successful jumps were introduced by a swinging leg. The left leg kicks to the left, and at the highest point of the knee, all the girls pulled really hard, of course, but at the highest point of the knee they jump to the next holds. The next hold is like a sloping going downwards to the left. You get it and you have to start pulling immediately and slide into the next big sloper. Catch it with both hands or catch it with one hand like Akiyo did. Really important is not too quick, not too powerful, stay controlled in this complex, uncontrollable environment. Everyone except Shauna and Fanny sent this dyno. Miho and Janja needed the least amount of tries. They both needed 2 tries to send the problem, but Miho dropped the first move and sent the dyno first go. Janja sent the first two moves always, but dropped the dyno in her first try. I think she went a little too fast, too quick, and didn't hit the sloper properly. After the sloper, after the bonus, no one fell. Before the third boulder, we had a tie. Again, Janja and Miho, they needed the same amount of tries to send 2 problems. Then Petra Klingler, she needed 3 tries more to send 2 problems. Then Akiyo, Fanny and Shauna, who didn't send any. Boulder number 3 is our least complex boulder, if we can say it like this. It's a compression, power endurance, slopey boulder, purely set on in the steep area of the competition wall with big flat hold volumes and slopers and holds. The start could be climbed on 2 ways, either with a heel hook next to the left hand or with a full out dyno. Both ways were possible to climb, and after this we've seen different ways to get to the big banana flat hold. No way seemed much harder than the other one, and I think both ways were what they needed to be: exhausting, powerful, tiring. The quicker you climb it, the quicker you make your decisions, the more power you save and the more pressure you put on your other climbing opponents. Boulder 3 was climbed by everyone, at least after a couple of tries, and we still had a tie before we went into boulder number 4. Still Janja and Miho were up front, then Petra, and then Akiyo, then Fanny and Shauna, who sent their first boulder with boulder number 3. At boulder number 2 we had a dynamic and complex, really complex, risky sequence for the upper body, for the arms. Of course you needed your legs to jump and to coordinate yourself to the left, but more important were to coordinate your arms. And at boulder number 4 it's more important to coordinate your feet first. You had to step dynamic on a triangle, jump into an undercling and cross through with your right foot on the last triangle to kill the momentum and kill the swing. After this the passage was a little bit not that obvious apparently to some climbers like Petra and Shauna, who didn't send the block. Other climbers made it look really easy, but still some difference which we can see here. While Shauna tried to match the last volume and jump from there, didn't make it. Petra tried to match the volume as well, then she popped out of the crimp and didn't send it anymore. In her last try she tried a desperate crimp 1-2 to the top to do it a little bit more dynamic. But I think this was not the intended way to do it, because the top of the sloper is really slopey. Miho, Janja, Fanny and Akiyo started the move with the right hand on the crimp and the left hand really low, and introduced the move over the left foothold, jumped over the left foothold and crossed with the left hand onto the top triangle volume. We can see Akiyo here, who had a lot of problems with the first move, making the last move look really easy. Lots of pressure on her left foot, then she whips a little bit onto her left foot, pulls with her left arm to start the move, pushes only with her left foot, pulls a little bit with her right and crosses over. Janja crossed as well, and because Janja and Miho both flashed the last boulder, we still had a draw, which means the winner is decided due to a countback of the semifinals. Because of this, Janja won. That's something which is never supposed to happen, to have a final winner due to the countback to the semifinals. Of course we have the rule that we don't need a super final anymore, but we want to have a clear, obvious winner, seeing the winner sending the hardest problem, maybe as the only one, or maybe in less tries than the second competitor. I think boulder number 2, the end after the complex dyno, could have been a little bit more powerful or just harder in general. Also, boulder number 3 could have been way harder. It was just a walk in the park for most of the competitors. Boulder number 4, on the other hand, you want it to be not easy, but you want it to be sent by at least some girls, that it's not too risky, that we don't have a single sand on the last boulder problem. In general, the mix of the boulders was good, or of the styles in my opinion. We started with an old school slab, then we started with a new school, a more complex boulder, then we went back to a more simple style of climbing, straightforward, not really complex, powerful, and then the rhythm was changed again into more complex, this time for the lower body, and tricky move with an easier end, where we have still seen some girls drop the last move. In general, again, the women's category was a little bit too easy, like in Meiringen. It's really hard to guess why this happens. I said it before, maybe because of the time limit, maybe because they had a ranking already in semifinals and they were sure to make it happen or to get a ranking with tricky sequences. I know that no setter from Meiringen went straight to Moscow. This would have been too exhausting. I don't know how the contact is between the setters before the next Boulder World Cup. On the other hand, the wall is really different. The holes were way different. Old holes, some flat holes. The volumes, I've never seen them before. You don't know how the friction is. I think the friction used to be quite different in Moscow than compared to Meiringen. It happens sometimes. Usually the girls' categories are a little bit, or most of the times, girls' categories are a little bit easier. I guess we can see more tops at women's categories than in men's categories. Or maybe this is just false thinking and a trap, and I'm totally wrong here. I think I will take a look in some statistics and look for some data, and we will see each other again after China, I guess. Bye.